What's up guys, ATCG here. Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we're profiling probably one of the most fun favorite decks of all time, and this is Lightsworn, a deck that has gone through a lot of changes during the past years. The ban list has actually affected the deck more than we could possibly imagine, but with Dual Overload, with Needle Fiber, we can finally have a consistent way of getting to all the combo pieces we need. Unfortunately, cards like Bulb and Destrudo getting hit is actually really important. When Brilliant Fusion got banned, that was actually huge because the Predaplant engine was a huge part of this deck. But the deck still has a lot of tools in order to win, and I'm going to show you how I think the deck is going to be played moving forward into Master Duel 5. So before we begin, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, comment down below which decks you want us to do next. And well, now let's get to the deck profile. So first of all, the all-star monster of the deck, 3 Judgment Dragon, the notorious win condition of the deck. If you have 4 or more Lightsworns with different names in your grave, you just slam it on the field. You can pay 1,000 to destroy everything else on the field, not once per turn. So if your opponent has effects that prevent destruction, you can just use this effect again. And if you have multiples, you can just summon the first one, blow up the field, bring out the others, and pretty much OTK with just that. Pretty good, and there are actually ways to search it in this deck, which is huge, because once Eclipse Wyvern got banned, this was actually another hit for this deck, because you could search it this way. Not anymore, so you have to rely on some other ways to make it more consistent. Now for the actual Lightsworn monsters, play 3 Raiden, the best one, you mill 2. During the end phase, you mill another 2, although this will not happen too often, he won't stay on the field too long, and he's also a level 4 tuner, which is actually huge, which helps you go into your extra deck. 3 Lumina, not once per turn, discard 1, bring back from the grave. Have multiples, you can bring the other one from the grave, then bring another one. It mills 3 during the end phase. Again, those end phase effects used to be a thing, not anymore, because if you end up summoning a Lightsworn and it stays on the field in the end phase, that means you had a really bad hand, so you couldn't explode your extra deck on the field. So maybe you will get a little bit lucky with that, but still not the best thing, but it's an option. 3 Wolf, when milled by any card effect, you can special summon it on the field. It's a level 4, it's really good. 3 Felice. Felice unfortunately has to be milled by a monster effect, so it's not as consistent as Wolf because you cannot mill it with charge or recharge to get on the field, but it's a tuner and actually has another effect that people forget about because you can tribute her and destroy a monster on the field and mill 3 cards, so that can actually come up a lot. And again, being a tuner now with Needle Fiber is actually more important than ever. I will show you exactly what you can do with the extra deck, because the extra deck is the main part of the deck when you don't OTK with Judgment Dragon. And this, of course, is a deck that you want to go first and try to bring out as many interruptions as possible. So it's not like you can do much with Judgment Dragon, because it's not a monster that you can summon very early in the game. 2 Lila, because once you don't have JD, you need some ways to deal with Bakuro. It's not the best monster in the deck, but still 2, I think it's okay. You can search it whenever you want with charge. And again, it's a level 4, which is actually important. And the last Lightsworn monster I play is 1 Minerva Lightsworn Maiden, because this is actually a way to keep milling more cards. It's another tuner that you can summon if you happen to draw it. And the effect to search JD will not come up ever when summoned, but it's something. And yep, that's why it's here, to give you another mill. Now let's go to the actual side engines of the deck that help you build boards, and the first one is the Performage engine, 3 damage juggler, because you mill a lot, so you will need to get some value out of the cards you mill, and this is probably the highest value card you can get because you can search your Hat Tricker or your Trick Clown. 3 Hat Tricker, this is actually a card that you want to see because it's a level 4 Earth. Being Earth is actually important, and you probably know why. And being able to special summon on the field multiple times means that you can summon a lot of monsters, and it's not something that you ever break on because it's very easy to get 2 monsters on the field even when going first. So it's really good even when you're able to search it. And the last one is 1 Trick Clown, because this card, it kind of relies you, if you draw it, you need to normal summon it, and you don't really want to normal summon it. So that's why playing only 1. You kind of want to mill it and then keep reusing it over and over again, because when you use it once, you put it under an Xyz, you don't detach it right away, you wait until the next turn, or you just leave it on the field and wait your opponent to destroy it so it can bring it back. So it's not the best card, but it's an okay card if you know how to use it correctly. A card that I think most people will start playing now, because unfortunately Global got banned, so we don't have easy access to Naturia Beast anymore. It's the Tennis Spirit Adhara. because it's a level 1 Earth Tuner that can special summon itself on the field from the hand if you control no effect monsters, so you start with this if you draw it. You can bring it out with the Needle Fiber if necessary, if you really want to summon a Naturia Beast, if you know that the Naturia Beast is going to win you the entire game against the right matchup. So it's not like you have to hard draw it in order to get access to it, and with it and Hot Trigger, it's very easy to get Naturia Beast on the field. And the last monster is one Jet Synchron. Jet Synchron is similar to Globe Bulb, not quite the same, but it can get rid of some good cards from your hand. If you have it in the graveyard and you have a Damage Juggler in your hand that you want to discard, then you can just discard and bring this back, get a tuner on the field, and you also have Damage Juggler in the grave now, so you can search another Performate. So it's not the worst card, but it's a really okay card. I wish it was Earth, but it's not, so you can't make Natural Abyss with it. But being a level 1 tuner is actually not bad because I play another Synchro in the extra deck that being a level 1 tuner makes it really good. Now let's go to the Spurs. 3 charge, the Light Brigade. Of course, you just mill 3, search any of your Lightsworns. Usually you're going to go for Raiden, unless you have managed to mill a Raiden before you use this, so you will go for Lumina. But usually you will go for Raiden or Lila if you want to pop one of your opponent's back. 3 solar recharge, the draw power of the deck. You discard a Lightsworn, you draw 2, and you mill 2. If you want to play this deck, you have to feel lucky. I think it's how you play Lightsworns now. It doesn't have a consistent way of doing everything it wants every game. You have to get lucky. But this is the fun of playing Lightsworns because you never know what you're going to get. Every hand is different, and also every mill is different. So it's not like you have a setup board that you're going to summon every single time. You just try to summon as many of those negate monsters as possible every time. I will show you exactly what kind of an end board would look like with which monster is being able to summon during the first turn, but just bringing a couple of them on the field is really good. And these one-off spells that I'm going to show you are actually the consistent ways to get these boards. So 1 for 1, you can get to your Nadhara, you can get to your Jet Synchron, you can discard your Damage Jugglers, really good. Foolish Burial, of course, you can either send a Wolf to summon it, you can send a Damage Juggler to search your trigger, you can set your Jet Synchron to bring it back. 1 Monster Reborn, because you have a lot of effects that are not once per turn, so if you mill another Lumina, you can bring her back with Monster Reborn and keep using its effect. And unfortunately, 1 Instant Fusion. This had to be done. I can understand why it had to be limited, but again, that was another hit for this deck because there are actually 3 monsters I run in the extra deck for just 1 Instant Fusion, because there are so many different scenarios that you want to cover when you're playing a random deck like this one. But it's actually not that big of a problem because the extra deck is not tight, so you can keep fitting whatever you want in there. And the last card I play is 1 Lightsworn Judgment, just for the fact that it's able to get you your Judgment Dragon. Being able to have another way to access your best monster in the deck is not bad. I know if you draw it, you have to wait a turn to set it so it can put itself back to the top of the deck. You just hope that you don't draw it and you mill it. That's why you only play 1. I think in more than 1 comp isn't going to be a lot of brick because again you don't can afford to have dead cards because you already have so many dead cards. If you draw your wolves, they're not doing anything except being fodder for solar recharge. Same with Felice. If you draw multiple copies of Damage Juggler, it doesn't do anything. If you draw your JD's early game, it doesn't do anything. So you have to make sure that you have a decent enough play turn 1, and once you've filled your grave with everything you need, then you can start bringing the power plays of the deck. So that's why I think Judgment is an okay card, but I wouldn't recommend playing it more than 1. You can kite it completely if you want, but I just have it here just to make JD a little bit more consistent. Now let's go to the extra deck, which is actually the most important part of the deck because the deck is its extra deck. The main monsters just facilitate all those extra deck monsters, except JD. But JD is like playing a completely different game on his own. So let's begin with 1 Minerva. Of course, Minerva is the best Xyz monster that this deck could have possibly got because not only do you get to mill 3, but you also get to draw cards if you get lucky and mill Lightsworns, and when she's destroyed, you also get to mill another 3 and clear cards your opponent's side of the field. So that's really huge. You usually want to summon Minerva first when you have the ability to summon rank 4, but there are some hands and you can summon another rank 4 in the field, so I decided to put in a Dweller because Dweller is probably the most generic one. You can fit in a Tornado Dragon in here if you feel like it. I don't think it's super important. If Altergeist gets its support someday, maybe it will be a more relevant deck so you can fit Tornado Dragon in, but for now I think Dweller is just the okay monster to have. Now let's go to the Synchros. We have 1 Michael. Michael, of course, because it's the best way to use Michael because it needs non-tuner lights, so you can summon it very easily with Lumina Raiden, the usual good old combo. and you can banish an opponent's card by paying 1,000 life points, and also recycle some monsters when it gets destroyed to get some life points. And of course, during the end phase, it will mill you 3 cards. One Naturia Beast, because again, Adhara makes this card possible to be summoned even after Glob Bulb got banned, unfortunately, but still, if your opponent plays like a Pendulum deck or something that's completely spell-based, then you can slam this on the field, and this will be game over. One Dragster, because if you have the Lumina Raiden combo, you don't want to really summon Michael going first, doesn't do anything, so you want to summon as many negate monsters as possible. And even if you already have an Naturia Beast on the field, summoning a Dragster afterwards is not bad, because yes, you won't need to use the effect to negate any spells, but it protects your field from cards like Evenly Match and Impermanence, which could actually be huge when you have to protect a Naturia Beast. One Shooting Riser Dragon, you usually summon this with Needle Fiber, you don't want to really Synchro summon it, and you can send to the grave anything you want to manipulate its level to synchro summon during your opponent's turn. So depending on what you need, you can summon a Naturia Beast, or you can summon the next card, which is the Draco Berserker of the Tenny, which is actually a really good generic. I think it's much better than Omega, because it actually gives you a disruption. Omega is kind of random because you rely on hitting a good card from your opponent, but this card is actually not easy to deal with, because it has the second part of Ballard Roach's effect to banish any card that activates. So it's really good, and it's actually a really good offensive tool as well, because if it destroys a monster by battle, you increase this card's attack by the monster's original attack, and it can attack another monster, so that's really huge, and the boost is permanent. So this card, if it stays on the field for too long, it can become really big. So it's a really good card to summon. Usually you will summon this during your opponent's turn with Riser, but you can summon it on your own turn if you have like a Wolf and Raiden on the field. And the last monster is Trishula, because again, like I said, the level 1s are really important. If you don't need to summon your Naturia Beast, or if you're going second, you can easily get to level 4s on the field. So you have like your Adhara or your Jet Synchron, you can summon Trishula very easily, and when you resolve Trishula against pretty much anything, it's a devastating play. So it can pretty much get you back into the game. Now, the instant fusion targets, again, these might seem like a lot of targets for just one instant fusion, but there are so many different scenarios you have to cover in this deck. So the first one is Thousand Eyes, because when you're going second, you need to be able to deal with your opponent's negates. This deck is not the best going second, unless you can fill your grave too fast for JD, but it won't happen too often. So you need to be able to deal with some monsters. One Madragon, because going to Minerva is actually huge, because Minerva is the one that's going to unbreak you if you have those awkward hands that you don't have a lot of plays, but if you can mill like 2 or 3 Lightsworns, then you can potentially get back into this game if you draw your charges and recharges. And one Theseus, because of the addition of Needle Fiber after Dual Overload, actually makes it so Theseus is actually a really good card. Unfortunately, with one instant fusion, it's not as good as people thought it was going to be, but still a really good card if you draw that one instant fusion, so you can have easy access to Needle Fiber. And for the links, been talking about it for so long. Here it is, Needle Fiber, the best. This is actually the best link monster, I think, that ever got printed after Firewall Dragon. It's actually a lot better than Nightmare Goblin. You're going to see that this card is going to facilitate so many crazy combos. You won't even believe it. We already have seen an FTK, which fortunately is not legal after the ban list, but we still saw in this 1 week of Needle Fiber being legal before the ban list how much shenanigans it can actually do. And in this deck is actually more important because you don't only need to bring a tuner from the deck. The second effect to Summon Shooting Riser is actually huge, like I said, because you get to send anything you want to the grave. You can send a Juggler for next turn so you can have follow-up, and manipulate its level so you can summon any more disruptions during your opponent's turn. One Curious, the actual Link monster of the deck, because people forget that this is a Lightsworn monster, but it actually is, and it's very easy to summon in Lightsworns because they're all lights and have different types, and you can send anything you want to the grave, and the mill effect is actually the only deck that benefits from milling 3, and also, if it's sent to the graveyard, you get to add back any one of your cards in your grave, so you can add back any JDs that you milled, or one of the one-off good spells that you have. One Appaloosa, because sometimes the scenario needs you to summon this card, because maybe Naturia Beast is not a good card, or if you summon Curious, even summoning Appaloosa with 2 materials is not bad. It's actually really good. So if you summon Curious and you have another extender, then you can just summon Appaloosa and hope that your opponent cannot destroy it before they start using their monster effects. And the last monster is one Boral Sword, because you can spam the field very easily, and Boral Sword is actually the OTK tool that the deck needs if it doesn't have JD. So, yep, that's the deck, guys. I hope you like it. It's actually a really fun deck to play. If you're feeling lucky, then try it out. It's really good for locals and regionals. If you actually get a lot of lucky, then you can have a lot of success with it, but that depends on how much you think you can build good cards. But, yep, if you enjoy the deck, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.